Judgment time, enter the house. While praying this afternoon, I saw myself standing outside a big, beautiful house. I can't remember now if it was white or cream in color. All I know is that it looked like something that was owned by someone influential. The front of the house, where I was, faced the busy road. Standing out there, I was trying to have a conversation through the window with someone who was sitting not too far from it, a man. From the look of the arrangement of the room where this man was staying, it would seem he was like a receptionist. By the way, the window was a little bit of a high one, and I don't know how I was even able to see into the room from where I was standing, except, maybe, that there was some distance between me and the house. Also, the building was remarkably elevated, such that to enter into it, one would have to climb an elevated surface, not a staircase, but a concrete inclined surface, commonly seen around. I saw that from below the place where the window was, there were 3 huge pipes leading out to the main road toward which my back was. At this time, I had not turned to look at the road and did not know what it looked like. Though I did not initially notice this, the huge pipe in the middle was pointing directly at me. The other 2 pipes, the first and the third, had quite a lot of sullage, dirty and greenish, coming out of them, but at low velocity. Because of how slow the sullage was flowing, I did not notice on time that it was quite copious, and that it was beginning to boil, if it wasn't already boiling, like it was lava. It was now I noticed that I was standing in front of this pipe, and strangely it looked much more closer to me. An ominous feeling suddenly came over me. I knew something bad was about to happen to me. Then, I heard the man's voice shout at me, "Enter the house." But it was almost too late. There was a sudden gush of this hot, disgusting, lava-like sullage out of the middle pipe towards me. In split seconds, I jolted and tried dodging the projectile that was heading directly for my head. It still brushed off my scalp and the top of my cranium. My brains were now unclad. I did not seem to feel any pain, or even care about my brain dangling as freely as it was. I rushed across the inclined pavement into the veranda. I had so much peace by just being there, standing in front of the metallic brown door that would actually lead into the house. I would have been burnt into oblivion. The man in the house, dressed very simply in a very white t-shirt, a pair of black trousers and a pair of black leather slips, came to the door. He opened it and looked at me with pity and love, you could see it in his eyes. He was hoping I had not been injured beyond remedy. There was also anger mixed in, but it was more like, why would you want to get yourself killed? I realized he was the owner of the house. But why dress so simply? Why appear like a common receptionist? I mean, you could have easily written him off as the house help or janitor. Somehow, I also had the impression of him being my father, though he looked too young to be it. From the veranda, I looked for the first time towards the road. Everything was being burnt up by the fervent heat of the lava. The once gentle flowing lava from the first and third pipes, had now converged with the lava flowing from the second one, that is, the one in the middle. It was violent. It seemed the burst from the second pipe, had given velocity to the already flowing 2 streams, such that the newly formed unitary pool of this sullage was moving with the velocity. It flowed far into all the land, as far as my eyes could reach, and was sweeping away all things. It was like only the palace from which this sullage had originated, was going to be left standing. It was all about judgment. A few hours later, when I was praying again, I was shown in retrospect, the origination of the sullage, and more or less what was really happening. I saw that all over the land, which I understood to represent the earth, there was green smoke. The smoke was on every living thing and every surface, and had even become the atmosphere. It was so thick that I could barely see the human beings that populated the entire surface of land, though it looked like there was actually an overpopulation. The said smoke was originating from the humans themselves. I saw that there was fighting, evil speaking, fornicating and all sort of wickedness being practiced by these humans, and as they did all these things, the smoke was rising from out of them. From their mouths, off their skin pores, even from their facial expressions, especially angry faces. I do not know how that happened. A major emotion that choked the air was anger. It was what I could feel or sense the most. Fighting was the dominating act on the land, and hate was the trend. Fighting and bloodshed was so much the wickedness in vogue, that things like fornication seemed outdated. It was as though a spirit of war and strife had taken over the earth. I saw these particular gigantic-looking men fight for so long, that even when the green smoke had blurred all sight, and was choking them, they continued. Anger, rage and hate unabated. It was like they wouldn't stop until they saw each other dead. The smoke from the humans was gathering in the air like thick incense. An angel, standing over the palatial house I had mentioned above, was collecting the incense in a big, brazen bowl. He kept pouring it into a particular room in the house, which served as a cistern that then condensed it. After condensing the smoke, it became the filth, greenish sullage, which was then boiled and passed through those 3 pipes, and of course, returned to destroy those from whom it originated. It seemed that until the sullage from the second pipe had rushed out that way, the sullage from the other pipes could not have the velocity to move far enough. More or less, it had to be sent out first. This is a message to the Church of God, as I understand it. Though this doesn't seem to be my reality, in the vision, it felt like I was scared of entering the house, initially. This, I had the impression, was because I had erred significantly and would rather try conversing with my father through the window, for fear of being disciplined, judged. But this was not my father's will or intention. Neither was it pleasing to him. My decision to stand outside with the rest of the world while trying to maintain a relationship or conversation with my father, was even greater folly. Why? I would be destroyed along with the world, as was going to happen to me. This is a lesson we must learn in these seasons of God's judgments visiting the earth. The attitude of my father towards me in this vision showed, that even in a time of judgment, God will still rather have us preserved. God never sends us away. Rather, it is our sin that separates us from Him. This brings to mind Isaiah 59.
Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, nor his ear heavy, that it cannot hear. But your iniquities have separated you from your God, and your sins have hidden his face from you, so that he will not hear. Isaiah 59 1-2.
I, representing the church, was blind to the fact that there was lava coming around me from the 2 pipes, to cause destruction, and even more blind to the fact that I was about to be destroyed, to be judged. It had also seemed that the lava, sullage, from the second pipe intentionally targeted me. Instead, I was engrossed in initiating and maintaining a false form of relationship and communication with my father, while preferring to be outside my father's house, with the rest of the world. This is where there is a serious message for the church. Many Christians who live in error, against their father's will and purposes, have decided to stay outside his house, with the world, while trying to behave like they have a functional relationship with him. Some even think that they're in his house, when they're not. That you can still speak to God and get replies once in a while, doesn't mean that everything is okay. It doesn't mean that you will not be destroyed with the world when judgment visits it, as long as you remain with the world. Many have gotten comfortable with this deception, and they will be shocked. Many will barely escape with their lives hanging from a thin rope. The judgment, lava, from the other 2 pipes could not go forth, until the judgment for me, representing the church, was launched. This is because judgment must now begin in God's house, with His own people.
For the time has come for judgment to begin at the house of God, And if it begins with us first, what will be the end of those who do not obey the gospel of God? 1 Peter 4:17.
One more thing I noted. The man who was my father in the vision, was dressed in black and white. This brings to mind the concept of a judge, or justice. He is our father, but he is the judge. One who is set to mete out justice at this time. The way forward? It's all in Isaiah 59. Let your father beat you for your folly, but stay in the house. No child ever had a fruitful relationship with their dad, by trying to achieve it outside his house. 21st July, 2021. Brother SC. Copyright Gam Watch, 2022.